Alright, so today we are going to do Valve games. And this will be included the games they've published, as well as some of the games that started out as mods and were later purchased by Valve. I am using somebody else's list, so I don't know why Uplink is on there. And Deadlock, as far as I know, is a game that's not even out yet, so we're just going to put that there. The only thing that's really missing is a game called Gunman Chronicles, which I don't think they published, and I know they didn't develop, but they did have a hand in helping that team develop that game. You can get it as a free mod now, and I'm trying to remember who actually developed that, but either way, that studio made that game and then disbanded, and it's been long forgotten. But Gunman Chronicles is an okay game. Just imagine me putting it into a C, I guess. Anyways, going to the actual Valve games, we have Half-Life, their first game, and one of my favorite games of all time. Yeah, it's going right there in S. That's because that game pretty much is what got me into shooters in general. Like, it's not my first FPS. I played Dark Forces, GoldenEye, and Rainbow Six of all things beforehand, and maybe one or two. I think I might also play Delta Force before it. Like, I like those games, but I was never super into it. And there's also DEFCON 5 as well. I almost forgot about that one. But Half-Life's the one that really got me into shooters. The story was good for its time. The level design and the flow of the game it's not something that's really ever seen before, because the closest thing to it would have been Quake 2. Other than that, it was just like mostly older style boomer shooters, which are often labyrinthian key and switch hunts. Whereas this one was I don't want to call it cinematic, but it was a bit more story driven than a lot of those old games were. And for better or for worse, it did completely change how shooters, or at least single-player shooters, were made. And on top of that, it came with deathmatch mode. While clearly an afterthought for what was primarily a single-player game, that deathmatch mode was pretty fun, and probably the first game I'd actually played online. So yeah, I have very little complaints to say about Half-Life, other than I guess some of the combat mechanics haven't aged super well, but for the time they were great. You know, impressive AI. One of the few games to have friendly NPCs that would help you in combat. I think it might have been one of the first. But yeah, Half-Life 1 was revolutionary for its time, and it still holds up pretty well. Now, Uplink was a demo for it, which I believe was cut from the base game. It's okay. Again, I don't know why it's on here, because it was just a demo. Well, the content in it is unique, completely unique. I kind of wish they had just patched it into the game. But it is what it is. I believe there's a mod for it, so you don't feel like you have to go out and play the demo, but the demo is what got me interested in Half-Life in the first place, so it did its job. Now, the first proper expansion pack, developed by Gearbox before Gearbox turned to shit. Opposing Force. A lot of people put this on a pedestal as one of the best expansion packs ever, and I don't think I would go that far, but it is pretty good. It adds a fair amount of new content through weapons and enemies. The campaign isn't as long as Half-Life 1's, obviously, but it was pretty reasonably lengthy. The multiplayer add-ons were pretty much throwaway, and I don't think anybody ever played the multiplayer for that, but what do I know? Either way, it was kind of a novel idea to have you playing as the other side in the single player, even going as far as having a unique training level. Which, if anybody who hasn't played Half-Life before and just getting started to this, I would recommend playing that, because it does explain a fair amount of new mechanics that are not really introduced in the campaign itself. It did expand on the whole friendly NPC thing, and not only giving you friendly soldiers, but also creating medic and engineer classes. Although granted, the engineer is more of a continue the game mechanics, because really all they would do is just open certain doors. But the medic was pretty much, as you can guess, a mobile healing, mobile health kit that would, funnily enough, would also heal friendly NPCs, instead not just you, though their supplies are limited. My biggest complaint about this about the expansion pack is this. Well, actually, I have two complaints. The first is the fact that this friendly soldier mechanic was underused. There aren't a whole lot of encounters with friendly soldiers, and I think there's only like 2 medics in the entire game. Maybe 3, but I'm pretty sure it was 2. So they spent all this time creating new classes, but they underutilized the hell out of it. I really think instead of making it an expansion pack, it should have been like a standalone sequel, or pseudo-sequel, whatever you want to call it, and had fleshed it out more. The other problem I have is because the human enemies are now Black Ops, there aren't as many encounters with them. One of the things that made Half-Life 1 great is because there's a large variety of enemies. And while the Opposing Force does have more alien enemies in it, there's just not really much human enemies to break up the monotony of fighting them, as there was in Half-Life 1. And you also are far less likely to see the humans and aliens fighting each other like you did Half-Life 1. So yeah, those two I feel really kind of knock it out of the S and put it into the A, but it's still an excellent expansion pack. Their second one, Blue Shift, was a bit disappointing. I enjoyed it for what it was, but it really is like a 2.5-hour campaign that's easier than even the original Half-Life. Which is kind of understandable because this was originally meant to be part of the Dreamcast port of Half-Life, but that port was canceled. So it was either release it or it would become vaporware, and I for one am glad they released it. I do think if they were going to release it as a standalone, they should have put some more levels into it and buffed up the amount of enemies. But for the 2.5 hours it's in there, it's alright. And it doesn't really it doesn't really create questionable canon events like Opposing Force did. Like, if the nuke went off at the end of Opposing Force's canon, I'm pretty sure that would have been brought up in Half-Life 2. But anyways, this one at least doesn't end as bad as a cliffhanger as Half-Life 1 and Opposing Force did. This one was actually a good purchase for me because I actually did not own Opposing Force. I had the original Half-Life retail, but since Blue Shift came with Opposing Force, I essentially got 2 games in one. The stupid part is, though, is you had to be in my situation where you did have Half-Life 1 but not Opposing Force, because Opposing Force required Half-Life, which Blue Shift did not come with. So if you did not have Half-Life 1, all you got was Blue Shift. The other thing it came with was the HD model pack. Some people liked it, I did not. Why did I have that up? But, I will use the model pack for Blue Shift, but that's it. Because I really feel like Blue Shift was built for that model pack. But for Half-Life 1 and Opposing Force, I stick with the original models. Either way, it's alright. I think maybe a B is fine. Because again, it's fun. And you can get it dirt cheap on sale on Steam. If you don't get like the Half-Life, part of the Half-Life pack, which also goes for dirt cheap when it goes on sale. Decay was another expansion that was part of a console port. This one was part of for the PS2, and that version did come out. That's probably the best way to play this because unlike Blue Shift, Decay is co-op and co-op only. It might be fun if you're playing that version with a friend because there are mods that turn it into a single player experience. I don't like them. They're buggy, and the level design just really isn't meant for it. If you're playing it co-op, it'd probably be a B, but as a single-player mod, that's like a low C. I did not particularly care for it. Hopefully someone will, or Valve will make turn this into a proper single-player experience that isn't fucking buggy, but who knows. Deathmatch Classic, I never understood the point of this. only reason I had this as well as Day of Defeat and Ricochet was because I registered my retail copy of Half-Life to Steam when Steam first came out. And I essentially got it for free, and that's the only way I played it. I played it like twice, and it's literally just like Quake 1 if it was in the Half-Life engine. Again, I don't see the point of this because I'd rather just play Half-Life 1's multiplayer, so yeah, pointless game. Team Fortress Classic. I played the hell out of this before I got into Counter-Strike. I think I played maybe Half-Life 1's multiplayer for like a week before I got bored and decided to try TFC. This is probably what got me even remotely interested in playing multiplayer shooters in general. Though I am still very picky about the multiplayer games I play, but this was one of them, and I played it for quite a while. I think this is better than TF2, to be honest. The only thing to complain about it versus TF2 is the grenade mechanic is a pain in the ass. But still, it was a pretty cool game for its time. I would say Tybee. Day of Defeat, I played a fair amount of until I got into Medal of Honor Allied Assault and the early Call of Duty games, back when Call of Duty was still good. It was kind of somewhere in between Counter-Strike and TF2 as far as its gameplay. I didn't really get that into it. I only played it for like a few weeks before I moved on and went back to Counter-Strike. There's not really anything wrong with it, but I don't know. I would rather have played Medal of Honor or Call of Duty. I'd say it's a B is fine for it. Ricochet. I don't know if this was ever released as sort of part of a retail package, or if this was just a mod that you got for free on Steam or whatever. I played it a couple of days. It's basically like Tron discs in a first-person setting. It's fun, but the game was dead even when I tried it. And its lasting value is very low, so it's an okay, fun game. It was fun in short bursts, but as far as I can tell, it's unplayable now. That's a C tier. Now, Counter-Strike, on the other hand, there's no arguing this is probably one of the best multiplayer first-person shooters out there. I actually avoided playing it for quite a while because when I tried the mod, it was quite buggy. The retail version I never got because, or at least the original standalone version, the original retail version of it before it became part of Condition Zero, I never bought because it's multiplayer only, and I have only made like a couple exceptions to that rule where I don't touch games if they're multiplayer only, or I don't purchase games if they're multiplayer only anyway. But I got this as a part of Condition Zero because I bought Condition Zero retail, and Condition Zero retail came with Condition Zero itself, the deleted single-player campaign, and Counter-Strike 1.6. I played this after CZ. The main reason I moved to 1.6 is because I found a couple of servers that specialize in playing large numbers of community fun maps. And these community fun maps are a big part of what kept me into Counter-Strike for a long time. It makes the game go a hell of a lot further when you don't get tired of playing the same maps over and over, and you can just pop into a community server and play something you've never seen before. Or even if you have, there's like 50 other bajillion maps to break that up. I also met a group of friends in that game, and that was the first time I joined a gaming clan. It wasn't ever super competitive. I did enjoy playing scrims from time to time, but that wasn't really for me. I mostly just like being part of the group. But either way, like, I played this game so freaking much that probably my time in Splatoon 1, 2, and 3 combined still doesn't touch this. Because I played this for years as a teenager, and spent most of my damn day playing it. Of course, back then I didn't have much of a backlog or other games to play, so that's not hard to do. Anyway, undoubtedly an S tier. Condition Zero, on the other hand, I played for a few months before moving to 1.6, as I said before. It's not that CZ's bad, it's just the fact that the community wasn't there. Which is unfortunate, because before they messed it up with some updates, CZ was basically just 1.6 remastered, more or less. It came with some newer models, slightly better visuals, keyword slightly, and it contained a slew of new maps, as well as redone maps of the majority of the 1.6 maps, as well as the original 1.6 maps themselves. And on top of that, most community content, including weapon models and skins and multiplayer maps, were mostly backwards compatible with it. And on top of that, it also came with bots. And while these bots weren't very good, they were good enough for the time. The problem is they were either piss easy or they cheated. There was no in between. It also came with a bot campaign, which was kind of fun, but the problem with the bot campaign is, number one, you only played as the counter-terrorist, so learning terrorist tactics and terrorist weapons wasn't as easy. And number two, on the higher difficulties, the bots cheated, and more importantly, the challenges that were required to complete the level got kind of ridiculous on the higher difficulties. Like, playing conservatively and carefully was not an option if you had to win a round in like 45 seconds on a larger map. But either way, it was nice that it was there, and it was a good way to learn both the game itself and the maps, although not all of the maps were in the bot campaign, unfortunately. Anyways, the main problem I had with it, I mean, putting aside the fact that the community kind of abandoned it like a year after release, more or less, was just the fact that they kind of broke it through updates. Maybe not break it, but they definitely hurt it in some ways. For example, they changed the hostage AI to make them quote-unquote more realistic. The problem is that made it a lot harder for the CTs to win, because number one, they would react really annoyingly to things like flashbangs, and number two, their pathfinding somehow got ruined. So they would often get stuck in the stupidest of places, and they're a lot slower about following you, so that pretty much neutered one of the two major game modes. Oh, and speaking of the bots, one thing that was really cool, and this Counter-Strike Source, I believe, could do this too, the bots were capable of learning community maps. Now, they may not have done some of these maps well, especially the more complex ones, but there were some maps they could learn about as well as they could an official map, which was pretty impressive for its time. But yeah, the community abandoned it because not a lot of people were attracted to it. So a lot of people stayed on 1.6 as it was, and 1.6 was cheaper and easier to get a hold of. But there were a lot of like broken promises. There were supposed to be more features in it, like I think gas masks were supposed to be a thing, but that didn't happen. So it is unfortunate, but I'm gonna have to say it's a B tier. Like, there's nothing wrong with the game, but there's just no reason to play it anymore. Hell, it's hard enough to find good games of 1.6. CZ is like basically dead, and it died a lot quicker than it should have. But I don't hate it because, again, for me it was a good deal because I didn't have 1.6 and I enjoyed the other thing that came with, which was deleted scenes. Deleted scenes is best described as Half-Life mixed with Call of Duty 4. It was basically a globe-trotting Modern Warfare as first single-player shooter. Single-player only, by the way, but again, this was the campaign half of it. Condition Zero, I believe, was started as a single-player only game, but I could be remembering that wrong. Anyways, it was enjoyable. It wasn't the greatest experience. Like, it didn't do Half-Life that well, and it didn't do Call of Duty 4 that well, so it was kind of an unfortunate situation where it was kind of a jack-of-all-trades situation. I enjoyed it, and it's a good way to practice with weapons. The biggest problem with it is the AI kind of sucks. Like, it's probably worse than base Half-Life's AI, which that AI has not aged that well, but it does its job, I guess. And they were nice enough to include 3 there are 6 missions post game launch through patches for free that were all, I believe, all cut from the base game, which is unfortunate because some of the new maps in CZ were based off those missions. But in any case, I'm not sure I would recommend going out and buying it unless it's on sale. But if you do have it or do have a chance to pick it up cheap, it's honestly pretty fun. Source, Counter-Strike Source, funnily enough, was supposed to be the multiplayer side of Half-Life 2, and it released before that game did. Though I think you had to be a purchaser of the silver bundle to get that early, which I did. I was kind of disappointed with this. At first I was wowed because, wow, these graphics are pretty cool, and the physics in Counter-Strike, you can kick buckets around. But then you got to play it, it's like, oh, something doesn't feel right. They changed a lot of the basic mechanics of 1.6. Like, they got rid of flinching, the movement's different, and honestly it felt like you were better off circle strafing instead of good positioning and precision aiming like you were in Counter-Strike. Like, I swear, if you circle strafe someone with an M4 and just sprayed, you're a lot more likely to kill them than someone not doing that. I don't hate the game, but I was just disappointed with it. I spent probably less time in CSS than I did in CZ, to be honest, but again, it was essentially a freebie for me since I bought silver, and it was released as the multiplayer side of it. It's B tier, it's okay. I don't know if it's still active or not, because I have not popped in that game in years. Now, Half-Life 2 itself, I gotta be honest, I think this game is a little overrated. Don't get me wrong, it's an excellent game, and I really enjoyed it the first time I played through it, but subsequent playthroughs have kind of lessened me on it a bit. I do appreciate the fact that the storytelling is been enhanced. And by that I mean the characters are actually more expressive, talk a bit more, there's more world building than there was in Half-Life 1. Though I do prefer Half-Life 1's world, but that's just me. Soundtrack was pretty impressive for it. It even brought through some of the tracks from Half-Life 1 to pad it out. Visually, it was pretty impressive for its time, and I know there were physics engine beforehand, like Doom 3, but I think this was the first game to have full physics for both objects and enemy ragdolls. They even made a big deal about it through the gravity gun, which I gotta be honest, I was not the biggest fan of. Like, it was a fun gimmick for a while, then it's just like, oh goody, I gotta take this out to solve a puzzle again. Woo. But I don't mean to shit on it too much. It's a great game, but I don't think it's better than Half-Life 1. I'm sorry. Like, if Half-Life 1 I'd give a 10, this one I'd probably give an 8.5. It's an A tier. But, yeah. Again, it's hard to sound like I'm being not shitting on it, but also saying it's kind of overrated, but I still really enjoyed it. It's just a bit disappointing, because I was expecting a bit more coming off of Half-Life 1's heels. Kind of like how, I guess, Deus Ex and Invisible War had... Well, no, that's a bad comparison, because Invisible War is a decent game, not a great game, but kind of had that same situation of following up on its predecessor's heels and just not quite living up to it, in my opinion. Maybe Fear 2 would have been a better example for that. Anyways, Half-Life Source. We were all expecting a remake. What we got was a bare-bones remaster. And all it really did was add in the blood effects from the Source engine, the water effects from the Source engine, which probably was my favorite thing, to be honest. I like those reflections. And ragdoll physics that only applied to freshly killed corpses. Like, things that crates didn't apply to. Corpses were already dead, they still jibbed like the original version did. And blood that was already there, not from, like, you know, shooting enemies, also original effects. All the textures were the same, all the models were the same, sound effects were the same. Which would have been okay, since, again, it was a freebie for people that bought the silver, but it also came with a plethora of bugs and weird balance changes. Like, enemies died easier. The game was easier, which wasn't a particularly hard game. Like, I think normal mode is fine, but it made normal mode and Half-Life Source feel like easy mode in original Half-Life. I don't know. I played through it once, didn't touch it again. It was pretty disappointing. It's a C tier. Lost Coast was a tech demo, and much like how Uplink was a section of cut content that made the demo, although for that was an entire chapter's worth, Lost Coast was a single map. You could finish it in about 10-15 minutes. The new lighting effects were cool, but I honestly wish they just like added the level to the main game instead of making you waste an extra 2 gigabytes of hard drive space just to store a 15-minute level. And the level's not even very good. I can see why they cut it. Like, you're gonna play it once and probably never touch it again. It's a D tier. It's not fun. And now that episode 2 is out, there's no reason to be wowed by its visual effects either. Speaking of the episodes, we have one of the biggest attempts to scamming the gaming industry, the episode content format. This is essentially the expansion packs for Half-Life 2, although I heard a lot of people say, oh, it's Half-Life 3, but cut up. It's like, no, not really. Episode 1... A lot of people love Episode 2, but think Episode 1's kind of meh. I wouldn't say I love Episode 1, but it's kind of the opposite for me. Even though it's shorter and contained less new stuff than Episode 2 did, it was a much tighter experience for me. Even if in the beginning you are stuck back in the Citadel using only the gravity gun again. But it is what it is. It made Alex, who I already wasn't the biggest fan of, even more annoying. Yeah, I guess I'm in the minority of that one, but I just really did not care for her. Like, I don't hate her, but it's like the game probably would have been better without her, but that's just me. But she sticks to you like glue in that game. New content-wise, like, there is a new type of zombie, but that's about it. I was pretty sure there aren't any new weapons. And there's not new weapons for either of them. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that's a new zombie. It was like the only new enemy. There's like... I think there might have been some new lighting effects, but not as substantial as they were in Episode 2. But yeah, it's basically just a 3-hour expansion pack. A bit longer than Blue Shift. A bit more challenging than Blue Shift 2. But I feel like that was mostly made to fix the dogshit ending of Half-Life 2. Which, by the way, that's another reason why I think Half-Life 2 is inferior to 1. Is like, 1 had a bad ending, 2's was atrociously bad. But it didn't really do much to fix that, because after the 3 hours, it ends more or less the same way as Episode 2 did. Explosion and crossfade to black. I hate that. Valve, stop using that type of shit ending. Nobody likes it. Ugh. Anyways, I would say it's a B tier. Not great, but it's not bad. Episode 2, on the other hand, I have problems with. It looks prettier. I will give it that. Like, they pushed the Source engine to its limits in that game. It is very pretty for a Source engine game. The problem I have with it is the level design kind of sucks. You spend about an hour and a half in a generic and repetitive cave fighting antlions, which, yeah, I know, antlions are a major enemy, but when that's all you're fighting, that gets repetitive. Now, I do like the turret section with Dumb and Dumber. That part was fun. But other than that, that entire portion of the game is just kind of bland to me. The other problem is once you finally get outside, you get a brief section where it feels like normal Half-Life 2, and then the vehicle section shows up. Oh boy! That was another issue I had with Half-Life 2, is the vehicle sections. Now, I didn't mind them as much in Half-Life 2 because at least with the car, you get a weapon attached to it, so you don't have to stop and get out as much. And the fan boat was kind of a unique vehicle, being how floaty it was and the fact that it was amphibious. I have yet to play another game where you could actually drive something like that. So it had a unique feeling, and later on it did get a weapon attached to it. Episode 2, on the other hand, you spend quite a while in this damn car, and there's a lot more reasons to stop and get out because of all the secret caches. And every time it's just, I don't enjoy having to get in the car, get out the car, get in the car, get out the car, get in the car, get out the car. I did that enough at work in real life. It's not fun. And the other problem I have is you spend way too much of this section battling hunters. I don't like hunters, at least when they're by themselves. When they're mixed with other enemies, it's a bit more interesting. But when they're by themselves, they're just annoying, tanky little bastards. And that's another thing, like, once you get to the final fight, like, supposedly it was supposed to be a lot bigger than it actually was. It was supposed to have soldiers, hunters, striders, but instead it was just this bunch of striders escorted by hunters. Which might not have been as bad if you could kill the striders the old-fashioned way and just had a bunch of rocket crates laying around. But no, you gotta get the gravity gun out, find a bomb, throw it, launch it onto the strider, then shoot the bomb. And if something shoots the bomb while you're throwing it, like a hunter, well, guess what? You gotta go out and find another one. It is... that final battle is awful. I don't know. There are times in episode 2 that are fun. Like, there is one stretch where you get stuck in a small group of houses and you get charged by soldiers and hunters working together. That was actually pretty tense and well done. And if more of the game had been like that, I would have been kinder to it. But for me, it's just on par with episode 1. It's got more quantity but less quality. At least in terms of the level design, because as I said before, it's quite beautiful in comparison to Half-Life 2 and Episode 1. Now, I will say one thing in its defense, it does end a bit better because, well, it's still the usual Valve cliffhanger. It at least has an actual ending instead of just crossfade to black and explosion. But unfortunately, thanks to the writer leaving, them never making Episode 3, and then Half-Life Alyx retconning things, we'll probably never get to see how that was going to end. Anyways, Half-Life 2 Deathmatch. This was added for free maybe like a month or so after Half-Life 2's release. I think it was because people were complaining about the fact that Counter-Strike Source was just too detached from Half-Life to be considered its multiplayer. So we got was a basic deathmatch, comparable to Half-Life 1's, but not as fun. It was a lot more bare bones. Like, it was kind of fun because, you got your regular deathmatch, but then you throw the gravity gun in the mix. And as the store descriptor used to say, you can toss toilets at your friends. So there is a bit more variety to tactics. It's just, it was very, very bare bones, even if it was free to anyone who owned Half-Life 2. But I spent maybe a couple days on it and never went back. It's a C tier. Portal. Now, this was part of the Orange Box, which a lot of people say was kind of an apology letter for Episode 2 taking so long, which, if that was an apology letter, that should have been free, because that bitch was $20. Which I know is cheap, but the problem is that game is only like 2 hours long and doesn't have a lot of replay value. I will say the story was kind of interesting, and the dialogue was cute and witty. It was a very unique game, and did some interesting things with the engine. And as you can probably tell with a lot of Portal-like games that have come out since, a lot of people have tried to replicate it. Not so much. I really like the game, but as I said, the biggest it's too damn short, and it ends pretty abruptly. And the final sequence is just not fulfilling. And plus, once you get out of the labs, there's a section that's in between when you get out of the labs and you get to the final boss where it's not puzzles, it's just finding what portable wall to latch onto so you can continue on. So that's like 30 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes of the game that's just kind of eh. So I'm going to say it's a low A. Portal 2, on the other hand, is a full retail release. And while this game does have some pacing issues, it's what Portal 1 should have been. Now, there are sections of Portal 2 that connect the main sections where you are doing the same shit as late stage Portal 1 of just looking around in time to find a tiny bit of portable wall to continue the game instead of solving puzzles. But they did a better job of putting dialogue and story development in these, so it's not as offensive. Plus, the dialogue itself is a lot better. The story is much more expanded, and this one has a proper ending. Really, I don't have that much to complain about it, and the fact that it has pacing issues. Yeah, that gets an S tier. Probably one of the best puzzle games I've ever played. Of course, I don't play a lot of puzzle games, but so take that as you will. Day of Defeat Source. This is basically Counter-Strike Source, but Day of Defeat. I don't remember if this game was free, like free, or if you had to own Half-Life 2 to get it. I played it for a couple days, never touched it again. I'd rather play Day of Defeat 1, and honestly, by the time this came out, I would have much rather just play earlier Call of Duty. C tier. Very bare bones. And honestly it felt worse than the original did. TF2 I have mixed feelings about. I didn't spend a whole lot of time with this one, mostly because I didn't like the art and character design. And gameplay-wise felt off to me, although I do appreciate the fact that the grenades are no longer a factor. And the map design was just kind of weird. Like, I had fun with it early on, but then it went free to play. And oh boy, did that thing get worse. And instead of making the game better, all they did was try to find new ways to milk you for hats, as well as trying to make the characters more memeable. Yeah, talk about focusing on the wrong things, but sadly enough it worked because the game blew up when it went free to play. And you see shit for it all over YouTube. But guess what? I'm a contrarian for this because I don't care. I'm going to put it as a B because, again, I liked it when it first came out. It's definitely a B material, but like when it became free to play, a low C at best. Left 4 Dead. This is a bit hard to go on because this is a co-op game, though thankfully they had the intelligence to make this fully playable single player. The bots aren't terrible, but they're no real replacement for a human, so playing on anything higher than normal with bots is probably not a good idea. I didn't spend much time with the original. I think I played through it once. Partially because Left 4 Dead 2 ports most of the content from the original, so there's not really much reason to play it. Like, it did okay. I'm going to say it's a B tier. It's just there's not much reason to play Left 4 Dead 1. Left 4 Dead 2, on the other hand, as I said before, it got all the content from the original and expanded upon it. Made Versus mode was a lot of fun. I actually probably spent more time in Versus mode than I did playing the co-op campaigns. But yeah, Left 4 Dead 2 is basically what Left 4 Dead 1 should have been. The only downside of it is the fact that the characters are far more annoying than the originals were. Not that the originals were particularly good either, but the Left 4 Dead 2 characters sucked. But I think the campaigns in 1 were a bit better too, but that's probably just me. Either way, it's a pretty good game. I would say it's deserving of an A. Not really my cup of tea, but I can see that, you know, for me to say who's not really into co-op stuff or online stuff, to say it's a lot of fun, you know, it's definitely, I can't justify putting it at B. Alien Swarm, another co-op game. This one was free to play, I think. I touched it once, didn't play it again. It was basically like it's trying to be a co-op version of Alien Breed, but it's not fun and it died very early on. D tier. Maybe someone else could talk a bit more because I played it once and I just have nothing to say about it. Counter-Strike Go is another one I have mixed feelings on. It started out quite well. It was better than Source originally. But then they started updating it. And it got worse. And it got worse. At first it was just new content, which was fine, but then they changed fucking with the balancing to make it more esports-like. And it got worse. And finally the game was unrecognizable from where it started at. And then it went free to play and ugh, that's when it really shit the bed. It's also not playable anymore because they removed the ability to play it when Counter-Strike 2 came out. And I will get to that one. Uh, Early CS:GO, I would say was a high B. Late game CS:GO before CS2 came out, I would say is a low C. Like free to play just like killed whatever goodwill I had for it. So I'm gonna balance it out and say it was a B, low B. Dota I never got into, so I'm not gonna talk about that. We're just gonna put that there. I have no interest in Dota, so if you wanted me to talk about Dota, you came to the wrong place. Now we get into the VR phase, which I'm hoping they continue with, especially now that the Deckard's still, or well, the quote-unquote Deckard's still a thing. An Alex 2 would be good, but anyways, their first experience, the lab. I did not like this one. It was a tech demo. It had about 20 to 30 minutes of content in it. There was a hub world, a couple of mini games, and then like a 5-10 minute story mode. Nothing in it was substantial, and nothing in it has any replay value. Like some of the dialogue was amusing, but it did a terrible job at showcasing VR tech. Like sure, it was an early VR game before we had things like Half-Life Alyx, but still, you know, being free doesn't make it free from criticism. There's just no reason to play it. Like I guess if you got a VR headset, you can install it, play through it once, and never touch it again. But it's really pointless. Now their second attempt, Half-Life Alyx, is another interesting story, and I also have two minds of this game. The first time I played it, I was disappointed. The second time I played it with mods, and I enjoyed it a hell of a lot more. This is probably still the most technically impressive and most detailed VR game out there, which is kind of sad because I think this is like 3 or 4 years old now. It's probably the most immersive experience you can have with how you interact with the world. I think probably the only thing that would rival it maybe is Bone Labs. But yeah, the world looks pretty good for a VR game. The graphics are great. Like the Source 2 is like really on display here. The physics are pretty solid. Everything works as it should. It just feels good as a VR game. I don't know why anyone would want to play this flat, because I think there is a flat mod unless you're just desperate to play it. Because if you play it flat, it's you miss out on like the main part of it. Because as a Half-Life game, it's okay. Which is why I said I have two minds of it, because it's one of the best VR experiences, but not so good Half-Life experience, because the combat to puzzle ratio kind of sucks. And when you do get into combat, it's usually with small groups. Like I don't think you're ever in combat with more than like 3, maybe 4 Combine soldiers at a time, and like 3 or 4 zombies at a time. And the story is, again, very retconny, as I said before. The story's not great. And I don't know why that you have to listen to that Russell character instead of like maybe Kleiner. Like, why couldn't they just brought Kleiner back? But enough about the story. I don't like the fact that Alex is no longer a silent protagonist. Like, I get the point, like, playing as Alex kind of make it a moot point of making her the protagonist, but if you want maximum immersion, you really need a silent protagonist. But the story itself is alright, despite the retconning. It's interesting enough. But yeah, the problem I have with this game is the combat to puzzle ratio, like, really makes the pace slow, especially since your movement is also slow. The other problem I have is the holographic puzzles. Now, granted, most of them are optional, but you have to go through like the same 2 or 3 puzzles over and over again every time you get to a cache. Now, the good thing is there is a mod that removes these puzzles. I highly recommend you get that mod. It makes replaying the game so much better. The other thing I recommend is the Merciless mod. It makes the combat much more tense, so being in combat with a small group of enemies makes it feel, the encounters feel stronger than they are. So it doesn't really eliminate my problems with the game, with the gameplay, but it makes it a hell of a lot more enjoyable and feels a bit more like a Half-Life game. Doesn't change the fact that the North Star chapter sucks ass, and that one, Burstless mod actually makes that one worse. Like, I hate that chapter. Fuck the lightning head crabs. I don't know. Again, as a VR experience, it's an S tier. As a Half-Life experience, I'd say it's a low B. So I'm gonna say it's a low A. The desk job, it's cute. Though this is another tech demo. This is show off like the Steam Deck capabilities, but it's fully playable with just using a regular controller. But it's basically a 30-minute turret simulator. Now, I will take this over the lab because there's an actual story to it, and it's consistent gameplay. There's a point to it, but it's still a 30-minute tech demo. It's a C tier. Like, I played through it once, and I have no desire to touch it again. Like, it was okay. Counter-Strike 2, on the other hand, I really wish they had given us a proper new CS game, but what they gave us was essentially Counter-Strike Go's CZ. And unlike CZ, which gave you more content, Counter-Strike 2 gave you less content. Though it did give you a healthy serving of stuttering. I will say the game looks great in Source 2, or at least compared to CSGO was. And there are some quality of life improvements that I do like, but that's about the goodest grace as I can give it. Because it's got like half the content of late CSGO did, and with all the bad balancing of late CSGO. So you're basically playing the game that looks prettier, runs shittier, and has like half the content. And like since launch, I think they've only added like 2 maps, as well as the ability to play community maps and the matchmaking. The main reason I even play this still is just since I have premium, since I bought CSGO when it was paid. I get the skin, the care package drops, which you can sell for actual money. It's not much unless you get really lucky and get one of the rare cases, but it adds up. I don't know. I will play it like off and on. Like I'll play a match or 2 a day for like a few weeks and then I'll stop. Like it's okay, but man is it disappointing. Like, please give us a proper CS2. But it's definitely a C tier. It's really unfortunate because apart from that swan song of Half-Life Alyx, Valve as a game development company has just not been good lately. Like, sure that Steam itself is great and all, but the last truly good game they made before Half-Life Alyx, like unless you count Left 4 Dead 2, because that was Turtle Rock, they just published. Valve just like owns it. The last game they made, great game they made, was Portal 2, and it's been a bit since that game came out. But I don't know. Hopefully we'll see Half-Life 3 and it turns out good, or maybe they'll give us a proper Counter-Strike 3 that's a new game instead of just a half-baked remaster or remake. But I doubt it. Anyways, this is how I feel about the Valve games. They started with excellence, then flip-flopped around, and yeah, I don't know.